40 years ago, we opened our doors with one mission in mind.
We'll be right back with the top 10 songs of 1983.
To sell quality American-made vehicles at a fair price.
You have arrived.
And we've loved every minute of the ride. Celebrating 40 years of Two Rivers Ford.
It is straight up 1 o'clock. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzico. One longtime NFL staple from Tennessee announcing his retirement. Longtime Patriots linebacker Dante Hightower announcing he will hang it up. The Lewisburg, Tennessee native, Marshall County High School graduate, won 2 national titles at Alabama, 3 Super Bowls in 10 years with the New England Patriots. Vanderbilt's run in the NIT continues tonight, taking on 4-seed UAB in the quarterfinals. That is a 6 p.m. tip-off at Memorial Gym. And the Memphis Grizzlies playing host to the Houston Rockets. Ja Morant expected back tonight as Memphis hosts Houston. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 1045 The Zone. What's up, everybody? Happy. I know what day it is today. It's Wednesday. I didn't know yesterday. It's Wednesday all day long today.
The hump day is
the nexus of the Sports Talk universe. There you go.
I love when you say that.
Well, I'm going to keep saying it things. I want you to love what I say. Okay. I love what Robert was saying. See, we get into these discussions. Lucas and Buck were talking about Hamburger Helper earlier, so then I asked Lucas about Hamburger Helper, and then Robert said something that all of us don't believe. Lucas, did you believe this? Blaine, did you believe it? Robert said, in New York, they don't make cheeseburgers.
No, that's not true.
They make something called a chopped cheese.
No, I believe that they do that, but they do make cheeseburgers. Yeah,
there's no way you can't get a regular cheeseburger in New York.
Yeah.
I would think you could get a darn good cheeseburger in New York. I would think there are some places where you could get a cheeseburger that would change your life. But he said, no. It's just a skillet with meat and cheese cooked in it, like hamburger meat and cheese. And they just chop it up. So I said, it's not in the form of a patty. He said, no. I said, so they just put a pile of this on a bun. He said, yes. And I said, well, that sounds fantastic. If it's just meat and cheese cooked in a skillet, what's not to like? Or on a griddle? He said he didn't like it. I don't know. We need a New Yorker to call in and confirm or deny that such things even exist. 615-737-1045 or hit us in the Zone TV chat. Blaine, I know you spent some time in New York. You seemed unfamiliar with this term of chopped cheese.
Yeah, well, we're talking about, early 2000s. Yeah, I lived there in the off seasons because my wife worked for the NFL, and that's where it's headquarters. So, yeah. So I don't recall any of that there. I definitely had some cheeseburgers there. So I don't know if things have changed over time, but I would assume they still have a regular burger.
Maybe someone going up for the Vols game against FAU in the Sweet 16 can call in and check back with us.
100%.
Yeah, they're in Madison Square Garden, right? They 2 wins there in the Final Four. Is that right? Yeah, that's right.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, man, wow. Things have kind of fallen their way. Man. We got to ask Lucas. He's the UT guy. I'm just giving you scenarios. If they lose, will you still be okay with how far they went? Or will it be more about that you lost to FAU? And so now the expectations is still ramped up that you should beat this team if you lost.
It would definitely be difficult to swallow a loss to FAU. And so the pressure shifted now, right? They weren't supposed to beat Duke.
Right.
They
so
did
now
it.
The pressure's
they played
on
freely.
them.
Pressure's right back on Tennessee.
Yeah.
But you cannot sit here and say that 2-3 weeks ago, you told somebody, yeah, they'll be in the second weekend for the second time in the Barnes era, and they would have said, no, got to be Elite Eight for it to be a success.
So
Nope.
where does the pressure go, win or lose, with Barnes, the coach? I think a lot of pressure is off on him, especially since he beat Duke. But if you lose against a team you're supposed to be, because they're favored, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So where does it there? Is it going to be a little bit like if they lose, if you're going after Barnes, the fans, or is that kind of decimated a little bit?
Some people will, but the whole knock on him is not able to get out of the first weekend.
Yeah.
And then from there on out, man, it's March. Like,
okay,
some coach,
anything can happen.
yeah, you can get to the Elite Eight, you can get to the Final Four. Obviously, the chips have fallen where Tennessee has a big opportunity to get to the Elite Eight. But if Tennessee wins,
ooh, it's gonna get lit.
I think there is a very strong argument for Rick Barnes as the best
coach
basketball coach in Tennessee
in
history.
UT history,
Yes.
right?
With
Because he
this-
would have taken them further than anybody, right?
Bruce did it once.
One time.
Bruce got to
That
the
was in
They lost to
2010?
Michigan State in.
Oh.
It was either I think it was the 08-09 season.
Oh,
Yeah, it was in that
it
era.
was Michigan State. Oh, I almost
Lost to Michigan State in the Elite Eight.
Okay,
Draymond Green.
yeah.
You may very well see Michigan State again.
Mhm.
In this rascal history could repeat itself.
It always does.
I saw less hype for this team before the tournament.
1,000%.
Because of their roller coaster ride of how they
Yes,
play.
it's-
Yeah.
it's
And then with
Ziegler-
Ziegler out, that kind of threw a monkey wrench in
The
there.
least amount of expectations for a Rick Barnes team in the tournament, I think, in the Barnes era. You can make an argument for that 2021 season because that team wasn't expected to go far. They went one and done, lost to Oregon State in the round of 64. But they had talent. They had Jaden Springer and Keon Johnson. You thought hey, maybe they get hot, but it doesn't look good. But yeah, no question, there was not a lot of juice going into this one.
I think people now. I think if you'd said before the tournament, hey, you guys can make the Sweet 16. I wonder what percentage of Vols fans would have been like, where do I sign?
Everybody.
Okay. So
Mhm.
now, though, the interesting thing is
You want more?
you want more because it's FAU, and you think, gosh, well, if we can, and they're what 35-3 or something.
33-3, I
They're
believe.
33-3. So, I mean, they shoot the ball well. They shoot from three. Now, if you're Tennessee, you have a distinct size advantage. You ought to be able to grind. They do have a 7-foot guy, but other than that, they're not the biggest team. You ought to be able to grind these rascals down. But if they get to running and gunning and jacking up some threes and making them and get their confidence up, but now if you don't, literally, if you're a Tennessee fan, you're like, wait a second. All we have to do is beat Florida Atlantic and we're in the Elite Eight. I think people's expectations now, Blaine, have been completely like reset. Like, oh no, we don't beat these guys. I'm going to beat
Right.
them.
Well, they know they're going to be. It's not that easy.
Nope.
Yeah, they were. Weren't they the champs in the Conference USA? Yeah, they won. They
Oh,
won
yeah.
30.
Yeah.
How many games did they win? 33.
Yeah,
or
over
so?
30 games.
Yeah, man. They're not going to be an easy ride. You hope it is, but better not expect that as the players. I know the fans will, but I think the players. You make it this far, anything can happen. Yeah, and especially in basketball. I mean, you could have a bad shooting night and the other team has a great shooting night. You could be in perfect defense.
Hey, I'll say this. I remember being thrilled when Loyola Chicago upset Miami in the first round a few years ago because Tennessee got the winner between Loyola Chicago and Miami. And it was, yes, get to play Loyola now instead of Miami, a good team out of the ACC. And then what happened?
Yeah, that's why you love March Madness, though. Anything can happen. I love it. And I'm always cheering for the underdogs. Like, oh, let's see, especially that first round. That first round, I'm like, woo, even though it just destroyed my bracket. Well, Purdue did. Purdue just shot it. Bing. Yep.
I looked at the start.
Did you
of
do
this-
your bracket?
I didn't fill out a bracket.
Oh, I did.
I didn't. I want to be able to root unencumbered by bracket by a piece of paper. So I don't ever fill one out. I mean, if we had a challenge or something here, I'd do one if everybody else did. But I don't want to be so mad, or rooting for some team. I just want chaos. I looked before the tournament because I thought, when was the last time anybody not with the Big East or like a Power 5 conference won? Do you know when that was? Like true chaos to the point of, and you won't even think of these guys as an underdog, but they were from a small conference.
Ooh.
UNLV, 90. That's the last that thing I read said Power 6. It was basically the Big East and the Power 5 conferences. The last non-power conference team that won it all was UNLV.
That's when they beat Duke.
Yeah, they were in the Big West or whatever they were in at that time.
Right, but I'm talking about, with Duke. That's the year they beat Duke or no? Or was it somebody else? Because the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I'm going to do like you do, that was the year that they beat Ball State in the Sweet 16, UNLV, by 2, and then went on to win the national championship.
But does UConn not count towards that?
No, they count as Big East.
Yeah, Big East was UConn.
So Big East is big.
Yeah.
Is power for basketball. So Big East doesn't count because they've been in a mix so many times. But it was UNLV. Is what the writer wrote about.
Because they were in the championship 2 years in a row. They lost one year and they got smoked, and then the next year they came back and won it.
And then what? Duke won. Did Duke win the next 2 after they lost to UNLV? Was that it? I think they did. Hey, that was a golden era of college basketball, man. That was the early.
That's
90s.
when the ACC just dominated. Now ACC's kind of just, they're like third.
Now they cry about physical play.
Yeah. SEC, 3 teams in, four women, right? 4 women team in the SEC. So, man, you think they can go 3 for 3, 4 for 4? Come on, let's put some money on. What's the odds say? I know Lucas already got all his money in there. He got the chips big money over there.
I need to look this up because I saw this earlier. The Vols, men and women, both in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Oh, let me find this.
Well, for the women's is South Carolina, Tennessee, LSU, and Ole Miss. I don't know. What are you looking for? Like, what teams have 2 teams?
This is from this stats a guy account that Greg Harvey, Between the Numbers on Twitter. Schools to win a New Year 6 BCS college football game since 1998 and have both their men and women's basketball team advance to the Sweet 16 in the same year. 2010-11 Ohio State. 2012-13 Louisville. Remember that magical run that Louisville got on and everything? And Louisville, their AD was like AD of the year. That was a crazy time. The only other school to do it since 98 in 25 years is Tennessee.
Oh.
This year's 22-23 Tennessee. Men and women Sweet 16 football team in a BCS.
Lucas did not know that.
Did you know that, Lucas?
I'm a little disappointed.
I don't think I knew
that. Our go-to right there for UT.
Well, we did what caught your attention yesterday, and I'd written a bunch of stuff down, and I hadn't even seen that tweet yet, but I was just going to write the successful year that Tennessee is having, and here's why. Because throw baseball there in the mix. I know they lost in their super regional, but they hosted a super regional and lost to a red-hot Notre Dame team. It was Notre Dame, I believe, that beat them, right, that came in and got them 2 out of 3 games. Yep. But your baseball team hosted a super regional. Men and women both in the Sweet 16 for basketball. And then Josh Heupel, 11 wins was the best since 2001 for Vols football?
Yeah. Men's, what's the UT right now? They better live it up. They had some down times, but they living it up right now.
I hope people are living it up.
Yeah.
Because you got no guarantee. I mean, Lucas, you're a UT guy. Are you living it up right now?
It's good. It's pretty good. It's been pretty bad. Now it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Would like a championship out of it.
Whoa, I hope so. That would be awesome. It would be livid here. Oh, my. Lucas would be off for a whole week. He'd be partying to the tardy.
Okay, so let's do this. And we can even put this out as a poll question on Blaine and Mickey. If you had to put money on the next UT team to win a championship, men's basketball, Vols, baseball, or football, who would you pick?
Oh, that's a great one.
We got to put that out.
That's about to get tweeted out.
That's big
Twitter.
time right there.
And put the Lady Vols in there too. Lady Vols, men's basketball, football, baseball.
Yeah. I think I would go baseball. I think baseball is most ready right now to go on a run, especially because it's college baseball and I know crazy stuff happens in March, but typically one of the best teams in the country wins the tournament. Baseball is so volatile. Like Ole Miss got swept by Tennessee in the SEC regular season last year by a combined score of like 27-3 or something, and then Ole Miss went and won the national championship in the College World Series.
Ole Miss kind of eked their way into the postseason.
Barely
anyway,
got in,
right?
and they won the College World Series. And so I think Tennessee under Tony Vitello has the best shot right now because your football, you still got to get over the Georgia hump. Basketball, you got to get over that Sweet 16 hump. But that's a good question.
All right. Well, I was due for one. All right, we'll try to get over the hump to the next segment because we got Blake Lovell coming. We'll talk
Humpty Hump.
3 SEC teams left in the tournament. Who does he like overall? How many of these teams can win? Can Barnes and the crew keep it going? We'll get to all that and more next with Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14, talking some basketball on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Blake Level should be on with us here in just a second. Lucas said that the phone lines are going crazy. So if you're the phone person, Mr. Telephone Line, see what you can do for us here. Get that thing working.
But I was going to bring up something. Remember, I went berserk on caught your attention with Dobbs.
Mm-hmm.
What if the Titans going to draft a quarterback first pick?
Well, that's part of my notes for today. Is
I'm like,
maybe they thinking something that we're not thinking about.
Or maybe we'll get Hendon Hooker the second pick. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out, like, who's the backup quarterback list? I'm sure there's a whole bunch of them out there. But I was just, like, intrigued. Like, maybe they got something up their sleeve that we don't know.
I would love to know what it is. And that's in my notes for today because we talked about this yesterday. They didn't re-sign Dobbs. Apparently, it was a one-year deal for $2 million.
That's it.
Dude's already got his stuff in the locker over here. Like, you could have just hollered at him, and you could have signed him the day the season was over because he was your own free agent. So, literally, all you had to do was be like, hey, Dobbs, stop by the office on your way out, man. What's your agent's number? Yeah, we're going to call this dude. We're going to get this done. Don't even put your stuff in a sack, man. Just keep it in your locker. That would have been so easy. Okay, they didn't do that, and that was easy. So, what are they thinking?
Is there some veteran guys out there? I'm sure it is. There's a whole bunch of. Matter of fact, we just saw Cam at the pro day, but I ain't talking about
Cam Newton.
No, I do not.
Trying to project him to the Titans already. No, I got it in my notes.
Stop that. He is not coming on Titan.
He's hard.
I'm not even.
Happening.
I'm not even feeling the vibe of Superman. Superman, his kryptonite's got him. I think he could probably play an emergency situation, which means somebody pick him up throughout the season, and then they're in desperate times. That's about as far as I'm going to go with Cam Newton. Yeah, Cam Newton's still playing like he just got out of college, and he got to become a pocket passer a little bit better for me.
That dude took so many hits.
Well, he was giving out hits too, but that don't, like I said, that don't last for long, even for a big, massive human being like him.
Nope.
Like that dude looked like a defensive end.
He did. I think I've told you this story. In the year he won the Heisman, we played them.
Arkansas State. Mm-hmm.
We played them, and we were standing on the field, and somebody said, "That's the quarterback." And one of the other guys goes, "No, that can't be." He goes, "No, number one, that's the quarterback." And somebody's like, "They got two because college teams have two."
Right. Mm-hmm.
Some guy goes, "They got to have two number ones. That guy's a defensive end."
Mm-hmm.
And one of the coaches walks over and goes, "That's the quarterback."
Boy, he is massive. Well, I saw him at the Super Bowl. I was like, ooh, on Radio Row. I was like, good gosh almighty.
He's full size.
I would have had to bring everything and then some to make sure I got this rascal down.
I would have gone so low. I would have been reading it like the label on his tongue of his shoe, like, Adidas.
Yeah,
well, hit you right there, Nike.
Oh no, I would have tried. I would have headhunted him. I would have.
You going up top?
Air bar. Gotta get him.
Go.
Send a message.
Big tree fall hard.
Matter of fact, big tree fall hard. Big tree knows even if he spins out of it, hey, the other guy's gonna get there. I'm sending the message. That dude is not playing.
Yeah, I would have gone for the shoestrings. Blake Level, if you had to tackle Cam Newton in his prime, how would you have gone at him? Blaine says straight to the top. I say straight for the shoe logo. Where are you going to try to hit him?
Right in his head.
Yeah, I mean, look, with all due respect to Mickey here, I'm gonna go with Blaine, given his history in making those kind of moves. So I'm gonna go with Blaine on this one.
All right.
Not the size of Blaine today in the mindset, but boy, back then, I got this dude, boy, I would have been revved up for that guy. There's no way, because if not, I'm losing.
I mean, it makes sense. I get it.
All right, I got to ask you this just because this is a question that came up in the first segment of the show. Then we'll get into all the basketball stuff. But if somebody said, okay, Blake Level, go get $1,000 out of your rainy day fund, and you got to take it to Vegas and bet on one of these teams to win the next championship for the University of Tennessee. And it was Lady Vols, men's basketball, football, or baseball. Which one of those would you pick? I mean, you cover the whole SEC. What do you think about this?
Ooh.
Yeah,
that's a good one. I will say, well, I was actually going to lean towards Lady Vols because, but then I think about it. I mean, the thing about that is, right, like, if you get a dominant team like South Carolina is right now, we've seen the dominant Lady Vols teams in the past. We've seen the UConn teams. I feel like there are less dominant teams. Like, you may have one team each year, like a South Carolina, that comes through and just beats everybody. So maybe your path to get there is wider than maybe the other places. But I don't know. I mean, baseball, too, is one where I would expect them to be a top 5 team in baseball for the next while, as long as Tony Vitello is there. And, I mean, football obviously heading in the right. I don't know. That's an interesting question, though.
That's a tough one.
I may go Lady Vols, honestly, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. See, we've got different answers, people responding in the chat. All right. We'll get into that again later. The Blake Level on Twitter, Southeastern 14. So did you have Tennessee and Arkansas joining Bama as the final 3 SEC teams standing?
You know, I thought that Tennessee could get there, but if you asked if I had any confidence in them beating Duke, it was pretty low after that first game that I saw against Louisiana. And I saw the way Duke looked against Oral Roberts. I was like, well, I don't know how I feel about this matchup. But Arkansas has always been interesting to me. I mean, we have a lot of Arkansas people that watch our stuff, and I think they've kind of said the same thing what we've said all year is like, they've had the talent. I mean, they've had Final Four talent all season. It's just, can they ever put it together? And, well, they're putting it together at the right time. So, I mean, the Tennessee one is just always a mystery to me because it's like you know what you're getting from them defensively. You just don't ever know when they're going to hit that 5-minute stretch offensively where they can't score. And but no, I mean, I thought Kentucky would have a good chance to get there, but I don't know. It's just wild to see how this tournament's played out, especially for teams like Arkansas and Tennessee, who've really been up and down over the past month or so.
Sure has. But if you're going to win and string some together, do it in March at the Blake Level on Twitter, Southeastern 14. Check them out for all your SEC needs.
Well, Blake, with UT's win over Blue Blood Duke, I guess, how does this affect your perception of Coach Barnes there at Tennessee? Does it change it? Does it stay the same or just no impact at all?
Well, I think anytime you get wins in the NCAA tournament when you're Rick Barnes is always a positive because we know what the discussion is every year. And I think, like you said, it's not just getting a win, but it's knocking out a Duke team that, let's be honest, a lot of people I saw picking Duke to go to the Final Four or get to the national championship game and all that. And so this was a very popular sort of team that was playing very well. I mean, they had won, I don't remember what it was, 9 games in a row or something like that heading into the tournament. And so I think just to get that and get out of the first weekend, because remember, too, I think everybody sort of thought coming into this tournament was, man, they don't have Sky Ziegler. They'll probably beat Louisiana, but I just don't know after that. Like, it's sort of, you're playing with house money, essentially, even though that's not the way you want to look at it. But I think it's significant just in that regard because anytime you can get to the second weekend, you never know how the bracket's going to unfold, right? And look at how Tennessee's bracket has unfolded. It's like, we could have never guessed that coming into the thing. So, think about that. Like, let's say, not to say this game against Florida Atlantic won't be tough, because I think it will be, but, if you lose the game to Duke, all of a sudden you look up there and you're like, oh, boy, we're about to, we could have that potential to play a 9 seed in the Sweet 16 for a chance to get one step closer to the Final Four, and we just let that slip away. So the fact they took care of business the way they did, I think it's got to be a significant sort of positive for Rick Barnes, just for the perception of what he can do there, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Blake Level. I guess, Blake, different now that it seems though the pressure is on Tennessee, where before it was kind of, they probably will lose and no big deal against Duke, right? Because it's a blue blood. Well, now that the pressure is on them to win, how do you think this team and Coach Barnes and his staff will handle that? Or do you not see it that way?
Yeah. Well, no, I do think the pressure's on them now because, like you said, I don't, outside of that first game, you're always going to have the pressure game one because you're the higher seed in that kind of matchup. But game two, I mean, like I said, me and many other people thought Duke was probably going to win that game because we just didn't love the way Tennessee had played against Louisiana. But now you come into it, it's like I just said, right, the bracket has opened up all of a sudden. And you're sitting here with what you feel like is a great opportunity playing a 9 seed, which, as I'll say, I mean, Florida Atlantic's not your traditional 9 seed. Like, they've won 33 games, and as we've seen, Conference USA's had some success, could have more success tonight in Nashville with UAB against Vanderbilt and NIT, and there's some good teams in that league, and I think Florida Atlantic is one of those. But, the pressure's not on them because they are, if they would have played Purdue, no one would have given them a chance to be in this spot. But they happen to be here, and you don't want to take anything away from what they did, in the first round beating Memphis or beating Fairleigh Dickinson in the second round. But they are essentially the team now that can be Cinderella, although I don't know that people are going to necessarily frame them that way with the way the game ended against Fairleigh Dickinson. I think there are a lot of people who were not real thrilled with the dunk attempt and all that at the end of that game. But the pressure's on Tennessee because, like we just said, Blaine, it's like, okay, Rick Barnes, significant. We got to the second weekend. Great. But now you better win this one because you are now, again, in what seems like a great spot to get to the Elite Eight and be one win away from the Final Four. And you don't get this every season, right? You don't, as a 4 seed, get to avoid a number 1 seed. But it's happened here now. And so I think there is some pressure there. And I look at this team, though, like I think they've embraced what they are.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know all the discussion of, how they play defense and all that. I went off yesterday. I love the way they play. Like, don't give me a team that's just going to sit back and let the other team dictate what they want to do. Tennessee is very physical, and I know there are people who don't like that, but if you don't want to have contact in basketball, go play another sport because they're doing what they have to do to make it as hard as they can on the opponent. And so I think they're kind of embracing what everyone else, kind of the noise around them, and like, hey, this is a Tennessee team that either, what was it, Dusty May, I think the Florida Atlantic coach, which I greatly respect, by the way, but he's like, we're going to start studying the Australian rugby rules and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I get it, man, but that's Tennessee, and that's how they've gotten here. So,
well, I thought that was a strategic move by him putting forewarning to the referees. See, that's who he's talking to set it up where don't let them have a tight, whistle. Don't let them play as physical. That's what he's really saying, even though he's poking fun at the same time. I guess lastly for me is, I don't know how much you know about FAU, but tell us a little bit about them. And is there any team that, Tennessee played that's somewhat similar in styles?
Yeah, and actually I do, Blaine. It's interesting because, like I said, Dusty May, of course, he was a former Florida assistant. He was there with Mike White at Florida, and so I actually got to know Dusty pretty well, just kind of, texting back and forth and stuff. And, I mean, I think, like I said, you don't get to this point being a 33-win team in Conference USA. I mean, I think about it, like we're not talking about the worst conference in the country or anything. We're talking about a 33-win team in Conference USA, which is not what it used to be, but this is a very strong team, and I always say teams that I like in this time of year are teams that really don't have an identifiable weakness. And when I kind of study this team, outside of probably like size, I mean, they don't have a ton of weaknesses. They can shoot the ball well, and we know, I think that's the one thing you're going to look at in this game. Like I said earlier, guys, we've talked about it all year. If Tennessee hits that stretch where they're not scoring, and you've got a Florida Atlantic team that I think is 10 to 12, something like that nationally in 3-pointers per game. If you're doing that, that can become a big problem quickly for Tennessee, because then what does that do? That puts the pressure on Tennessee to start making outside shots, and let's call it what it is. That's been a guessing game all season long. So I think Florida Atlantic's ability to shoot the three, I think they get 37.2% of their points from three. That's like top 25 nationally. So they get a large distribution of their points from the three-point line. But, hey, Tennessee's the best three-point field goal percentage defense team in the country. So it's just, I think that's the key to this matchup. They're a team, and I know some people have kind of been sort of drawing the parallel to Missouri as kind of Florida Atlantic, but we have to sort of think about one thing on that. The reason Missouri had success against Tennessee, I don't think it was really talked about a lot, but it was because Missouri could force a ton of turnovers and get easy, like, transition threes that were wide open. Florida Atlantic doesn't really turn teams over a ton. So I think now you have to decide, like every team does, are you really going to come down and try to, in the half court, score against Tennessee, who is going to push you out as far as they possibly can defensively? And this is a Florida Atlantic team that will get up and down the floor. So they're going to have some decisions to make on how they approach this, because, as we know, it's impossible to get easy shots against this Tennessee team. But Florida Atlantic's going to need that, I think, to keep that on track with what they've been doing three-point-wise.
Managing editor of at 14 Southeastern, Blake Lovell in the house.
Yes, sir. Just dropping the knowledge. All right, the other two SEC games that remain, you got a good defensive team in San Diego State taking on Bama, who's top 5 in scoring. Then you have Arkansas, who loves to attack you, against UConn, who are good in transition defense, and they defend the rim well. So these are both really interesting matchups, too.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I think the Alabama-San Diego State one, I know Alabama fans have not been thrilled with this, but, like, maybe I'm not a huge Mountain West guy this year. I didn't think some of those teams, Nevada should have been in the tournament, those kind of things. But I really like this San Diego State team because of what you just said. Like, they really defend. And I think if you're going to beat Alabama, who are the teams that have beaten Alabama this season? Tennessee's beat them because they could really defend. Texas A&M beat them because they could really defend. Go back to the UConn game. How did UConn beat Alabama early in the season? They were very physical with them, and they just defended. And I think that's what it comes down to. Like, how do you stop this Alabama team? Well, you got to really play a great defensive game, almost a flawless defensive game to do it. My worry with San Diego State is, can they keep up offensively knowing that Alabama is going to score? Like, they're probably not going to have those stretches of 6 minutes where they just don't score a point because they've got too many options. So I think that's going to be the challenge for San Diego State in this game. But if they can slow it down, make this, a 65-60 type game, they can win that. If it gets above that, I just think it's going to be a hard thing to do. UConn and Arkansas, my goodness, you want to talk about this was like an SEC game because you're going to have just two teams throwing haymakers at each other. Hopefully not literally, but like these are two teams that are going to be physical. And I think this could turn into a free throw shooting contest because both teams allow each other, sort of their opponents, to get to the free throw line a lot this season because they are very physical. So I'm curious, and I almost think that's what Arkansas needs. They need this to kind of become a free throw shooting contest because I think that's their path to victory. This UConn team, honestly, guys, if you go back and I've done this kind of looking at some of the advanced metrics and stuff, when you kind of find, some of these places will put here's kind of a comparison to past teams. When you look up UConn, there are a lot of comparisons over the past, I think, 15 years or so that are pretty much Final Four national championship type teams, just in terms of the makeup of the stats and all that. So it's going to be a really tough challenge for Arkansas. I know they just beat Kansas, but boy, UConn is a tough team, and I think this could be a really hard one for the Hogs.
We may not see a shirtless Eric Musselman again this year then. Blake Level, our guest at the Blake Level on Twitter, Southeastern 14, covering the SEC.
Well, Blake, I guess can the SEC go 3 for 3? Give us your predictions.
Well, look, I just said all that, right? I said it's going to be tough. I think San Diego State's going to play Alabama tougher. I think UConn, is a really tough challenge for Arkansas. And I said, hey, Tennessee's got to defend the 3. But somehow, when we made our picks this week, me and myself and Chris Lee, I picked all the SEC teams. I don't know if I'm just kind of, pulling in the bias here, but I honestly, guys, if I had to rank it, and Tennessee fans, close your ears here. I actually think I am the most confident in Tennessee of all the teams. I'm sorry to say that, but I just the defense, guys. I love the defense, but every time I say it, I hesitate because we know we're 6 minutes away from them not scoring a point, and that worries me a little bit. But I actually really like the matchup, and I know a lot of people don't. But when I look at it, I think it's an okay matchup. I think San Diego State can give Alabama a little bit of trouble defensively, but I trust Alabama to get there. And then, I'm just going to keep riding the Muss Bus, I guess, for right now because, maybe Eric Musselman will be shirtless again after this game. I know he will be if they win this one, but I think there's something about this Arkansas team. They're very talented. I think this is a worse matchup than Kansas, but, man, if you get Arkansas clicking all at once, they are one of the most talented teams in the country. And so I'll take a chance on the Hogs there, but I do think this is a pretty tough matchup for them.
One more question. This is for all the Kentucky fans. If Calipari didn't have this big-time contract, would he be on the hottest of the hot seats?
I think if he didn't have that and he didn't have this recruiting class he's got coming in next year, which they are all kind of pointing towards and saying this could be the best class he's had, I think he would absolutely – I don't know what would happen this offseason. If he didn't have either one of those, I think there would be a parting of the ways between the two. But the fact is he does have both of those in place, and I think next year, guys, we're gonna call this Calipari's last stand because if they don't win next year and they don't get close to the Final Four, I think there becomes a decision that has to be made there somewhere. So
no Elite Eight since 2019, no Final Four since 2015, no title since 2012.
Yep. That doesn't work for Kentucky.
Nope.
Yep, especially when Musselman took his shirt off and get wins without those recruits, man. I don't want to see Calipari take his shirt off.
He might if they win it next year.
He may.
Oh, okay. We shall see.
Blake Level, he always keeps his shirt on. Thanks for the time today, man. Great stuff at the Blake Level. Again, Southeastern 14. You and Chris Lee doing some fantastic stuff over there. People need to go check it all out. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it, Blake.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.
All right, the one and only Blake Level. All right, when we come back, Daryl's on the line. Jeff is on the line. Some people weighing in on the Zone TV chat. Which Tennessee team do you think can win the next national championship for the Vols? Lady Vols basketball, men's basketball, baseball, football. You want to weigh in on that? Phone lines are open, 615-737-1045. Hit us up on Twitter at Blaine and Mickey. You're, of course, always in the Zone TV chat. Blaine and Mickey 1045 The Zone. So the question came up. By the way, 3 times in the last 25 years has an athletic program had a New Year's Six or BCS Bowl game, men's and women basketball in the Sweet 16, and what was the other one, Lucas?
Is it something to do with baseball?
No, I think it was just those 3 things, actually.
Yeah. Well, Tennessee should be happy.
And Tennessee should did it. So basically that got us, it's
New Year's Six and Sweet 16 for men and women.
Yes, Sweet 16. Only 3 teams have done it in the past 25 years. So Louisville when they were on their magical run, Tennessee, and Ohio State in 2010-11. That's it. That's the extent of it. So then it got me thinking, like, gosh, because Lucas said, as a UT grad, but I really want a championship from somebody. So then the question became, who's ready to win the next championship for Tennessee? Most ready. Who will win one next? Who do you believe? So the question's out there, 615-737-1045 on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Daryl in White House, and then Jeff. Daryl's up first. Daryl, what you got, man? What do you think?
What do you think, Daryl?
Well, I was listening to what you guys were saying, and I really like the way the bracket's set up for the men, but there's one team you guys left out of the conversation. Lady Vol softball is currently ranked number 3 in the nation, and their record's 24-1, if I recall correctly.
Whoa.
They may be the best shot right now.
Well, there you go.
Put them on the list.
Put them on the list. Yeah, you only put 4 things in a Twitter poll, but I did put reply with others below because R. Parker in his own TV chat said, I'm going Lady Vol softball. So they get a little groundswell of support.
I know. What's the name's daughter's on there? Lawyer Malloy.
Oh, she got that genetics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She bringing home run power.
Boy, Jeff in Nashville bringing some phone call power to the show. Jeff, what you got, man? Which Vols team will win a championship next?
Boys, I want y'all to listen to me now and give you a reason why, because I think it's the Tennessee Vols men's basketball team this year.
That's who I voted for, too.
I think they got it, and defense is the reason, just like what Blake was saying. We are like 22-0 this year with keeping teams under 60 points. They have not lost a game yet. And for that kind of defense, who else has that kind of record? Nobody.
That'd be
you know
tough.
what I'm saying? Like, that's a tough beat right there.
That is a tough beat.
I'm not even just saying this time. This is gonna go on till Barnes gets one. So I was putting my bet on Barnes. At some point, he's gonna break through. Whether it's this year or another year, it's just gonna happen. He's too great of a guy. I mean, Hall of Fame. He's got to at least make it to a championship. May not win it, but he's got to make it there. And why not this year when nobody expects them? Why not? It's setting up right for them. That's why I picked basketball.
2-1's already eliminated.
If Ziegler was healthy, I'd say this year is the best opportunity.
But maybe the
You
losing
just never
Ziegler
know
has
in basketball.
galvanized them.
Yeah,
And
they come together.
They come together.
Yeah, and I feel like they found a way to survive. So we shall see. But I get what you're saying, Lucas. Though you want more weapons. He brings a different deal. Point guard, great defender, distributor, team guy. And he's that jitterbug too.
Tiffany says baseball is safe. I guess meaning a safe choice.
Safe.
Lonzo says baseball, and he's got Mississippi State. Avatar, so they know about winning a baseball championship.
Ooh,
Harold says basketball. They got the shortest distance to go to win.
I wanted to go football, but I kept thinking Georgia and Alabama. I just I don't know. They got Alabama this one time. They may be able to get them again, but I don't know. Georgia's the king of the mountain now. I don't know. They ready for that smoke over there in Georgia?
As long as they're not recruiting at the level Georgia and Alabama have over a consistent number of years, I don't see the national championship happening in football until they get to that level in recruiting.
And all they have to do is just kind of get half of what those guys are recruiting, really, because of this scheme and system on offense. Nobody's really proven they can shut it down unless you got guys. I got that guy. I got that guy. I got that
like
guy.
you said with South Carolina, where they got all these quarterbacks.
And then 3 of them go get drafted. And that's right. I try to tell y'all. I say, hey, man, them dudes is legit.
Yeah, you
I was impressed, especially that Rush dude who had his eyeballs look like he popped out of his head the whole entire time. I thought he was going to get kicked out of that game, man, because he was doing some illegal stuff. He was hitting people late, and he was like, took his helmet off. I was like, hey, he looked kind of cray-cray. Whoa,
Well,
watch
for
out.
one day, he was cray-cray in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. Yeah, in a good way.
Well, for good for them anyway. Sorry about the bad memories.
Not for Tennessee.
Because that doesn't go down that way. You could have played for your championship.
Yeah, they could have. They would have been in the hunt. And remember, they came out flat on defense. Offense didn't do what they normally do. They had a good scheme and they had the right players that matched up. But remember, that was the game that the linebacker got suspended, right? Or for whatever reason, we don't even know.
Jeremy Banks that missed that game.
Does anybody know anything behind that at this point? He got asked about the combine.
Yeah,
right?
I asked him about it at the combine.
What did he say? Give me your whole information, man.
So he didn't seem terribly prepared for the question, but basically he kept citing, it's a competitive environment, everybody fighting for a spot. And then he kind of stopped. Everybody said, okay, he's not going to answer the question. And then he kind of added at the end, like, there's no way that I shouldn't have been there playing with my brothers in South Carolina. And then you asked, like, did anything happen, in a competitive environment? He kept repeating that phrase.
I don't know. Hear rumors that he was, like, not going to class and they told him to go to class. I'd not go to class. They said go to class.
Like, come on, man. I mean, the semester's over. I mean, I'm going to the NFL. Class, schmass.
Well, I would have then, and I wouldn't have just made him run. I would have made him do up downs. That's going to be a punishment for you. Keep doing that.
Get up to class and then get down to your next one.
Yeah, I would have made him run some stadium steps. Just if you say run some sprints, he can jog them. Yeah, well, you can't make the guy run, right? So I'm gonna make you do some up downs, up some steps, something gonna be strenuous. If you're going to not do what I tell you to do, and I don't want to be put in a position where I'm cornered as a coach and I have to, sit you. I just can't do it. I want to win just as much as you, but you can't just ignore me. And I need to set an example. Do I set him by sitting him? And I think that's what they chose to do and just try to keep it copacetic and not, really throw him under the bus saying, hey, he didn't go to class or whatever the reason was. Yeah, I don't know if what people are saying are true or not. I have no idea. But I'm sure they have a reason. You got to trust in the coaches. It wasn't some one-off deal. It had to be something that was repeated over and over again. Right, Lucas?
Yeah. It had to be because you want that guy to play. Go to class, please, so we don't have to do what we got to do.
Yeah. That was also that. Remember, the rumor was about that was the incident in the locker room right up on the tee.
Correct.
I did not believe
Hendon
any of
Hooker
that.
telling that he couldn't step on the tee. Now, Jimmy Himes all but came here and confirmed it on this show.
He did.
Said that happened. They didn't get into a fight. Like, they weren't throwing, fists in the locker room, but that did happen. And but he said a lot of other things would have led up to Banks being suspended, not just that singular event.
Right. Now, does that make any sense? That happened, and you suspend a player. See, no, it does not make it. That is not justified to anything about suspending a player.
Yeah, that would have had to be like a third strike, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. That's what I'm getting. It had to be a culmination of things for that to be the last straw. No way. Man. No way.
We're giving you so many more. Okay, all right, you suspended.
Come on, bro. You're not supposed to step on the tee, and then you go up there, challenge that quarterback. He up here trying to do the right thing, and then, come on. You the outlaw? We got to send a message. And I'm sure some of the players was like, hey man. We playing without Banks? Can we just look past this?
Let's find what other message could we send? Like up downs are sending a fantastic message. Hey man, they want to win. Hey,
watch this. I would be a cruel coach. That's why I'm not coaching. Guess what? I would have had Banks. Banks is Lucas. Banks watching practice while the whole defense does up downs. And now they're so pissed at him for making them do extra. Be with the team or be without us. Now, y'all go handle this behind the scene and have a conversation with them after I finish with y'all doing up downs for 15 minutes.
So it'd be like making Robert run the board for a certain amount of days while I just sit and watch him.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we'd be in serious trouble.
Had a cold iced tea and some leftovers from last night.
Yeah, because then guess what? You get Banks to think, man, I hurt the team. I'm hurting my guys. Because he's not feeling it when you tell him as a coach. There's other ways to go around and get a guy. Send that message, especially a guy that, hey, I don't want to bench you. I'm not even saying, no, I want to win. I want to win. I want to win too, and we got some good stuff going on right now.
Yeah, really, they did.
Whoa, man, that messed up the mojo because they didn't look like the same team just that one night. They didn't look the same. At least on defense. And then offense kind of still didn't either. They were out of sorts.
All right,
We'll give South Carolina their props, though.
they did. Give them all the props they wanted. All right, Lucas is going to give us props if we don't get out of here because we're late for the break. When we come back, a target for Titans wide receiver that we talked about yesterday that we all would have liked is no longer available. We'll tell you who that is next.
Who that?
It is 2:03. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Another day, another free agent wide receiver off the board. NFL Network reporting that former Chiefs wide receiver Mecole Hardman has agreed to terms with the New York Jets. Ian Rappaport adding that it's a one-year deal for Hardman with a chance to make $6.5 million. Vanderbilt's run in the NIT continues tonight. They take on 4-seed UAB in the quarterfinals at Memorial Gym. Tip-off is at 6 p.m. for a spot in the semifinals. Also tonight, the Memphis Grizzlies are back home hosting the Houston Rockets. Should be the first time that we see John Morant back in action for Memphis. That is a 7 p.m. tip-off. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once, and you're home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. We're at the nexus of the sports talk universe. We're halfway through the halfway of the week show and happy to be hanging out with you. It's gloomy outside, but it's never gloomy in here.
Yeah.
Now, when we walk in the room every day, Buck has it pitch black in here. It's so dark.
Oh, yeah. He
So
likes
we
it.
open the
He's like he's at
shades
the
and-
club and he got his lights on in his, the room where he got the lights going around his room and everything. Lights like he in his dorm room or something. His disco room or something. I'm like, man, dude, I fall asleep in here, Buck.
Oh, no, it's cool
It'd
and
be
dark
too
or
dark.
warm and dark. Yeah, it's one of those things. Mecole Hardman's it's about as open as we got the shades in here now because he just got a deal. Mecole Hardman, we had him all set up to sign here, and you think, boy, what's he going to get? Because the free agency's been rolling on for a few days now.
My.
1 year, $6.5 million.
Oh, man, Titans could have got a speedster.
1 year, $6.5 million.
Yeah,
per
and he
rap
just
sheet,
come after surgery.
Pelissero.
Yeah, abdomen surgery. I saw that picture. Yeah, yeah. They better quit reading my tweets, man. I just started my phase of tweeting out names now. I said for a bargain, Mecole Hardman off the list. DJ Chark. These are the guys that I like. DeMarcus Robinson. Mickey talked me into him. I like him. Richie James, MTSU guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Returns
And
kicks.
Marquise Callaway. Marquez, right? Callaway. I like him. He also returns punts. Not often do you find a guy as tall as Lucas, 6'1"ish, 2, that can return punts. That means he can drop his hips and run really good routes because that's hard for those tall, thin guys to do. I'm interested why he's out there. Like, he had a good time good season when he was with Peyton. All of a sudden, he disappeared. Did he get injured or something? I don't know what happened to him. But undrafted, I thought he should have been drafted a couple years ago or whatever year he came out. And I like his skill set. Developmental guy who I think can bring more to the table. Titans should bring him in. I think they'll be surprised. I like him. Any of those guys I think you can get for some decent prices since they're bargain hunting. They ain't trying to get nobody no money. So let's do that. Then let's find the best of the bunch. And they may just say, well, we'll just wait it out and just see which one's left, and then we'll go after that guy. He'll be a little more desperate come June. But, yeah. Just like, they let Dobbs go. I'm wondering who's on the list for backup quarterbacks. Or do they have something up their sleeves?
Okay. Well, that was on my list of things today.
Ooh. They may have something up their sleeve that we don't know.
Yeah, Callaway last year played 14 games, 16 catches for 158
16.
yards. 16 catches.
That's almost like he wasn't playing.
He had 46 the year before.
Right, that's what I'm getting at.
And
what was his
700 yards.
See, that's what I saw. And I was like, oh, but guess who was there?
And 6 TDs.
Sean Payton.
Yeah.
See, different philosophy, different scheme, different coach.
Oh, it was a
See,
mess.
so now you got to go back and look 2 years. Do your homework, Rand. Get the running. Run, Rand, run. Run to Callaway. Telling you. And Coach Moore likes those tall guys, and he can drop those hips and run some good routes. Telling you. I bring him in there. Hey, guess what? If you don't like him, you can get him on a minimum salary type deal, and if you don't like him doing training camp, you can let him go, or even in OTAs. But I think they're going to like what they see, especially with his versatility in returning punts. Sure-handed, too. Did it at Tennessee, too, by the way. Really good.
Yeah, he'll be 25 in 5 days.
Still
so
young.
young guy.
Yeah.
And a lot of experience.
That's the route they're going.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Shark gets a little injured, banged up. Richie James, he came back from a torn ACL towards ACL when he was in 49ers last year. Then he came back with the Giants.
Yep.
Looks solid. He's a solid route runner. Got some quicks there. I like, yeah. And DeMarcus Robinson. Yeah, I think you can get all these guys for really good deals. And you're going to get your bang for your buck for the type of player and the money you're paying. Yeah. I'm sure there's some others out there. I'm going to look at the quarterbacks. Look at these backup quarterbacks.
You mentioned Richie James. He played in all 17 games last year. Had 57 catches for 569 yards. He had 4 touchdowns. He's another guy who can help you in the return game.
And the crunch, he can. Yeah, you want all guys. Yeah, and no more. We got to put. No, we got numerous guys that have a history of returning punts. So that's never. We got 3-4 guys. But guess what? We may not have you do that, but you can. We need you.
Well, I'll be interested to see because
once again, it follows my versatility. See, I don't know. Oh, we need to get a guy to return. No, what do you mean? These receivers are supposed to be short-handed. They're supposed to catch those balls. That's why you play wide receiver. If not, go play defensive back then. Those dudes can't catch, just like I couldn't catch. So I was over there. Well, I love to play offense, though. I was a running back. I'm sure glad I didn't go with my first instinct. I would have never made it. I would have been a third down back. And they said, you still can't catch. So how you going to be a third down back? So, yeah.
I don't know how they don't sign one of these guys.
One receiver. It doesn't even have to be in my bunch. I don't even care. I just want them to sign a veteran receiver.
You had your balling on a budget bunch. And I like those names. Just the names, some of those names we talked about yesterday. A to Z Sports with a great list that they sent us yesterday, and we were rolling through those. It's like, well, this guy makes sense. Right. Well, this guy would work.
Now, would I love to have like Hopkins, but I don't think they're going to trade no collateral or anything. So that's why I said bargain type players that you can get, for $2 million or something in NFL terms, bargain basement prices. I know that's a lot of money, but to the NFL standard, that's minimum wage if you're a veteran in this league.
Well, from what we've seen so far since Rand has been here, the combination of Rand and Vrabel, whatever you want to call them, it's not spend a bunch of money on somebody like DeAndre Hopkins. That's not what they're showing. It's take a flyer on a guy who looks like he can do more with a short-term contract that it's either a year or you can pretty easily get out of it after a year.
Yeah.
Not DeAndre Hopkins. He's got like a $19 million cap hit in year 1 and almost 15 in year 2.
Yeah. So I don't know what they're doing. I'm wondering if Rand was there with Richie James when he was at San Francisco. Was he there then?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He should have been. So he should be familiar
he knows.
with
He's
him.
probably one of the reasons he's there. Seems like he handled that sort of end of the acquiring for the roster.
I think he was a mid-round pick. I'm pretty sure. And he had some solid seasons there before he tore his ACL, Richie James.
7th round pick.
He was 7th?
He was 240 overall.
He went after I went. Oh, that's not. Well, he played a lot. I tell you that. That's why I assumed that he was a higher pick. He played a lot before he tore his ACL.
Played a lot, 13 games, 16 games, and he played 11 in 2020.
What were his numbers?
9 receptions, and then 6 receptions, and then 23 receptions. And as you mentioned, he missed 2021. But then he bounced back great last year. Had his best year by a mile with the Giants.
With Jones, yeah. I remember seeing him out there. He was out there in front of one of your little short, quick guys that they drafted. Who was one of them guys? Anthony. The guy that he was off the charts great. They ended up trading him though, right? They traded him to Kansas City. Guy from Florida Gators, quick as lightning.
Oh yeah.
Tony. I'm sorry, Tony. Yeah. I said Anthony. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, Tony. Tony. Now he was different to me. He was different than those other guys. Yeah, and then he went to Kansas City, act like nothing was wrong with his hamstring. They kept on saying something was wrong with his hamstring with the Giants. There was nothing wrong with this dude. Remember, he hopped on one foot on the edge and scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
He was doing plyometrics in the game. He was. That's a drill.
Yeah.
And on one leg. Boy, if that hamstring was hurt, it would have popped right there. Nope.
Held up together just fine. All right, we've held up together just fine for this first segment. We come back. It's time to talk to our guy, Jordan DeJani. All the latest NFL news. Maybe he likes a free agent wide receiver for the Titans. We'll talk about all that and more with our guy, Jordan DeJani, next.
Well, ice cream, blueberry.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Lucas, I'm sure, is efforting Jordan DeJani, who will be with us soon. Be able to talk NFL here in just a minute with our buddy Jordan DeJani. We got a shout out. Who? Ice cream? Where'd all this ice cream come from? Bluebell.
Yeah, Mr. Brent.
Oh,
Not the mayor. This is Brent at Bluebell.
If Brent from Bluebell keeps bringing ice cream, we'll elect him mayor.
Mm-hmm. And his supporting staff. Numerous people, but that's who they told me to say. I appreciate it because that chocolate ice cream scoop was fantastic. Ooh, I used to love. Oh man, I could eat that all day when I was a youngster. All day, all over the weekend. It's so hot outside. Yes. I just swallowed it all, just that whole scoop. I did a little break.
I've become at least mildly lactose intolerant in my current age situation. So I will have some, but I will cautiously have some.
I don't cautiously wait on anything as long as there's a bathroom closed. Because I had those fire hot chili chips things before, which I never eat.
Yeah, you've been on one today.
Yeah,
fiery Cheetos and chocolate ice cream.
Yeah, I feel
Young Blade would be proud of you.
I feel my stomach going bleh, 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 bleh. And you just gonna put some milk up in me? With that, what are you doing? You deserve this punishment.
Thank goodness the show will be over in 36 minutes or so.
I just do it to myself all the time. But I was doing so well. That vacation got me. I was starting to eat bad again.
Jordan DeJani. He never eats bad. Jordan, so far today, I've seen Blaine eating a bag of Flaming Hot Cheetos, and he just ate a bowl of ice cream. Are you eating as well and consistently as Blaine is right now?
I was doing so well.
Wow, that is reckless. You really didn't want to do the interview with me today. You wanted to be in the bathroom, man.
I know, man. I've been doing so well. So long here, it was just bound to break at some point in time. Oh, man.
I love it, man. Welcome back.
It's good to be back, man.
Always good to talk to you, Jordan DeJani, CBS Sports. So you're going to get people fired up because I always go and I'll be like, okay, let's see what Jordan's right for CBS Sports. So there are some offshore books that are trying to like put Lamar Jackson in Tennessee, and we're all kind of wondering, they don't bring back Dobbs. What's the plan?
Yeah.
So some people are kind of saying, well, maybe it's Lamar Jackson. Jordan DeJani, though, maybe thinks the Colts will make a play for Lamar Jackson.
What?
In the words of Blaine Bishop, stop that.
But we don't care about them. What we going to do?
Yeah.
I definitely got some thoughts on Lamar Jackson. And, everything appears to be quiet on the Lamar front right now. But you know what he needs? Do you know why Deshaun Watson got such a big deal in the midst of the off-field drama? He had competition. So today I'm staring out my window, making up this hypothetical scenario, which may come much to the chagrin of Titans fans. But I think Lamar needs both the Colts and Titans to inquire about him. Two division rivals that could upgrade at quarterback reaching out to him. That's something that could spark a market. Now, I don't think that's likely, and I'm not advocating for that, but that's certainly something that could spark movement, right? Two teams that are rivals simply inquiring. But when it comes to the Colts specifically, if you remember, and ESPN actually pointed this out, by the way, the day that Lamar Jackson received a non-exclusive tag, we see this flurry of reports about these teams are not going to be pursuing Lamar Jackson, right? The Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, the Raiders. Well, one of the teams that was not included in those reports were the Indianapolis Colts. Now, of course, they're sitting pretty with the first-round pick they have in next month's draft. But at the same time, as I pointed out on CBSSports.com, Jim Irsay is known to be aggressive at times with his decision-making. So, again, there's nothing that's imminent on the Lamar Jackson front that I know of, but at the same time, I think the Colts may be a team to keep an eye on.
Well, we'll keep an eye on them for sure. So what has been your opinion so far of what the Titans are doing free agency-wise?
It's been a mixed bag because I can look at the signings and say, I actually really do like these. We talk about Arden Key. We talk about Azeez Al-Shaair. I think that Sean Murphy-Bunting was a good depth piece at a premier position. And as you guys know, I can't harp enough on the cornerback position as it is. But at the same time, I think that Tennessee's kind of dropped the ball when it comes to the wide receiver market. And I really did think that the Titans would be involved at wide receiver because when we were looking over this free agency class, it certainly wasn't the class that was as stout as they were last year, right? There's a plenty of these smaller pieces. Maybe you could use the word bargain as a descriptor for some of these wide receivers, but some of these guys have been picked up, right? I was interested in Jacoby Myers. I was interested in Darius Slayton. I mean, Matt Collins got a $2.5 million deal from the Atlanta Falcons. That would have been an awesome piece for the Titans, especially when you factor in his special teams ability. Isaiah Hodgins from the New York Giants was a guy I was interested in. So, yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that Tennessee hasn't made an addition at wide receiver. But if we're looking at this, from a zoomed out perspective, I do like some of the signings they've made, especially on defense.
Jordan Dejani, our guest, CBS Sports at Jordan Dejani on Twitter.
Well, we're exhausted, but I have to ask you, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, what the heck is going on? What are the Packers trying to get?
Yeah, it's a good question, and that's what everyone's wondering right now. And Rodgers said on the Pat McAfee show when he announced his intentions to play for the Jets, what was it, a week ago now? It almost feels like a month, that the Packers were kind of sticking their feet, right, in the mud when it comes to compensation. And it's an interesting argument to have when it comes to who has the leverage in this situation. On one side, the Jets obviously don't want to let this deal fall apart, but on the other side, the Packers owe Rodgers, nearly $60 million fully guaranteed for 2023. So they're going to have to agree to terms when it comes to shipping them off so they don't have to deal with that and they can start really get to bookkeeping for the upcoming season. So initially I thought that a first-round pick was going to be involved, but it seems like things are trending in the opposite direction there. I saw that Peter King wrote that he hypothesized maybe a second-rounder this year and a conditional pick, likely a third for 2024, maybe even 2025. I think that's a pretty good estimation when it comes to compensation. But either way, I know it's probably a hot take for some people to say maybe this whole thing falls apart. In my opinion, it's not going to fall apart. But it's going to be interesting to see when that trade does become official.
No doubt about it. Well, let's stay with the quarterbacks. One more quarterback. He was at his old stomping grounds at Auburn, doing pro day, throwing the ball. We're talking about Superman Cam Newton. Is there any market for this cat, this ding-dong?
Let me tell you, Cam Newton is clearly upset that his former team gave Andy Dalton $10 million to come be the backup for his Panthers, right? Yeah, I think that's something that he was indirectly responding to when he put up that video on social media announcing that he was going to be throwing at Auburn's pro day. In my opinion, no. I think that his NFL days are done. I think he did fine in terms of throwing the ball, but more the attention was obviously given to the prospects at Auburn coming out into this year's draft, not exactly on Cam Newton. So, maybe that was the last time that Cam Newton had a lot of eyes watching him throw. I don't know how much interest that he's necessarily going to garner on the open market.
One more question. I did not forewarn you, but give me, coming out of college, your prediction of the top 5 picks with the teams that they're going to go to. See if you can get them right.
If I can get my my mini mock draft, if you will.
Yeah. This is JD's mock draft. As of today.
All right, I love it. Pressure's on. All right, at number 1, I'm going to go with the favorite now in Vegas to go number 1 overall, and that's C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State. We don't know if he's going to be the number 1 quarterback in this class, but what I can tell you is he's probably the most polished, the most well-rounded quarterback when it comes to this class. At number 2, the Houston Texans are going to take the quarterback that many think the Panthers should have taken, and that's Bryce Young out of Alabama. At number 3, I think that's where the Cardinals are. That's a team that's not needing a quarterback at this moment, which means I think we could see Will Anderson, the pass rusher from Alabama, come off the board at number 3. Number 4 is where things get really interesting with the Indianapolis Colts, of course, assuming that they do not go after Lamar Jackson. You can go with Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. One is maybe more polished, but at the same time, people have differing opinions about, and the other is obviously very raw, but is drawing comparisons to Cam Newton himself. I'm going to lean towards Anthony Richardson at 4. The Colts are going to go with the very raw prospect. It will be interesting to see how he pans out. At number 5, I think that's where the Seattle Seahawks are. Of course, they're a team not looking for a quarterback. They actually re-signed both Geno Smith and Drew Lock this offseason. They're going to go defense. I'm sure that Jalen Carter is going to be in the conversation here, but a guy that I kind of like is Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher out of Texas Tech. He goes number 5. that's my mini mock draft. Thanks for the opportunity.
Nice. I know the Titans like that Tech guy. Well, at least Coach Mack does and crew. They scout him. I never even heard of him. And then everybody knows about him now. Yeah, there we have it. Jordan DeJani.
Yeah, I think that guy from Tech could actually reach all the way to Nashville with his long arms.
Yeah.
Whose offseason have you liked the most so far, and whose have you liked the least?
Yeah, one team that's really stood out to me in terms of the deals they've made, and some of them have been big, some of them have been small, but I really do like what the Chicago Bears have done. You talk about solidifying the linebacker position with Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. Those are two guys that are legitimate starters. Nate Davis from the Titans is going to be an automatic starter at guard. One of the things that I like they did kind of under the radar. How about Robert Tonyan from the Packers, a tight end number 2 to play alongside Cole Kmet? That's a good move. And how about Deonta Foreman, right? Former Titans legend. He's on his way to Chicago as well. He has a great chance to be a part of what may be the best rushing attack in the NFL. Now, in terms of what off seasons I haven't liked, it's difficult to say because there are several teams out there, and you don't have to look far. Look at the AFC South. There's a couple of teams that really haven't made any signings in free agency, and all that's fine. Different front offices march to the beat of their own drums at certain times, and maybe it's best not to splurge in free agency. But one team that confused me a little bit, and listen, I'm not saying that they're going to miss the playoffs or going to overreact like that, but the Kansas City Chiefs made one of the biggest gambles of the offseason, in my opinion. Ditching Orlando Brown Jr. for a right tackle, Jawan Taylor from the Jaguars, not only giving him a 4-year, $80 million contract, but reports indicate he's going to flip from the right side to the left side. So it remains to be seen how successful he's going to be in that transition, but also if he can live up to that billing of being a high-paid left tackle. So the Chiefs, of course, lost Mecole Hardman. That was a loss. They lost Juju Smith-Schuster and then made this gamble. So I got my eyes on the Kansas City Chiefs moving forward.
Jordan DeJani, our guest. So the Titans basically sent everybody but you and Blaine and me and Lucas to Ohio State's pro day. I think it was Daniel Jeremiah, latest mock. He had the Titans taking Jackson Smith and Jigba at number 11. Do you think they would pull the trigger? If they haven't done anything with receivers besides NWI, do you think they'd pull the trigger on that dude? Have they done enough that they're like, yeah, we're good. We'll take him at 11?
Yeah, that's surprising, especially when you consider, Paris Johnson maybe sitting there at number 11, and I'm sure the Titans want to talk about the offensive line all offseason for good reason. But, man, Jackson Smith and Jigba, he may be the number 1 wide receiver in this class. I think the people have the TCU guy out there at number 1. At the same time, I really do think that Jackson has a bright future for himself. And listen, you kind of put the dots together, right? Tennessee hasn't done much in free agency at the wide receiver position. Going out there and being aggressive in the first round and solidifying yourself with that number 1, maybe number 2 to begin off with Treylon Burks on the outside as well, is something that's going to be important when it comes to bolstering this offense. And, the Titans had one of the most subpar wide receiving corps in the NFL last year. To see them go round 1 would be really exciting, but at the same time, that's going to be something that's hotly debated, I would guess, on 104.5 The Zone.
Very hotly. Just like these segments with Jordan DeJani are hotly listened to by all the Zone listeners as he joins us now.
Well, speaking of debates, man, what's going on with Austin Eckler, man? Is there any market for a trade? Man, he wants out, and he's like, hey, I got to get paid. I'm only going to be a running back in this league so long. I got to get it while it's hot.
Yeah, it's very confusing, right? When we all saw that initial report saying that the Chargers have, granted Austin Eckler permission to seek a trade, I'm sure they did. They probably were like, go ahead, try to see where the grass is greener, right? And, yeah, he thinks that he's deserving of a pay raise. But at the same time, look at the running back market, man. It's completely dead. It was ruined by Christian McCaffrey several years ago, and I'm curious myself when that thing is going to be revived. So that's a situation to keep an eye on because even though we like to demean the running back position at certain teams, Austin Eckler is really the soul of that offense, as good as Justin Herbert is. He's a great fantasy back, as we know. He leads the league in scrimmage touchdowns over the past 3 years or something ridiculous. That's going to be something to keep an eye on because he is a talented player, a dual-threat playmaker. But in my mind, I don't see a trade coming to fruition, and I think there's a reason we haven't really heard much about that story over the past week.
Well, I was a little surprised Dobbs, the quarterback, and for a 1-year deal for only $2 million. So obviously the Titans didn't want to bring him back. But what's some other quality quarterback? Get your thought on that, and then quality backup quarterbacks that are still out there.
Oh, man. Talk about shocking. I would have bet my bottom dollar that Dobbs was going to be in the fold for at least the preseason.
Me
I mean,
too.
he seemed like a Mike Vrabel guy, right? Like
Yeah.
a tough, humble
Vrabel,
kid, learned the offense in like 48 hours and provided an upgrade for a Ravens type of
Yeah.
I mean, come on, right? So that was pretty shocking to me. Now, in terms of who's available, that's a good question because I haven't been looking at that either. There's players like Carson Wentz who Titans are definitely not going to bring in the fold. Teddy Bridgewater is a guy who's still looking for a deal, I believe. I saw Trevor Siemian was released from Chicago. That's not a guy I'm very interested in bringing in the fold. Teddy Bridgewater is probably the hot name when it comes to a backup quarterback. But at the same time, Tennessee letting Dobbs go. Malik is still developing. Maybe that's something that Tennessee addresses in the draft potentially.
Yeah, do they got something cooking? I mean, do you think that if they did, what round would they do it?
I would guess early day 3, maybe like a third or fourth round would be my guess. It's the quarterback market's kind of interesting because I'll talk about a Tennessee guy real quickly. Hendon Hooker is a guy who's definitely endeared himself to a lot of the scouts that he's talked to, but I think a lot of people may have him going in the second round, which in my opinion may be a little high with him coming off of the injury. There's other questions we can talk about him when it comes to him as a prospect. Round 2 would be pretty high in my opinion. So that would lead me to guess that Tennessee may go in the third or fourth round if they were looking at a quarterback in this class.
Well, kind of break down Hendon Hooker real quick, I guess, on what your thoughts are about him.
So I love Hendon, and in terms of the guy that he is, and I think it takes a certain level of maturity to do what he did as a transfer player and lead what was the best offense in college football. I think that the thing that a lot of people are thinking about in terms of detractors is that he's an older guy, right? He kind of went through his biggest stages of development in college, and we saw him play very good ball as a 24-year-old, whatever he was, at Tennessee that final year. So I guess a lot of people are kind of wondering how much development left is there for him. Now, when you look at the measurables, you look at the arm talent, it's certainly there. But there's a reason that more people are intrigued by a guy like Anthony Richardson, who, basically didn't throw many touchdowns his entire college career. His percentage completion career is like 54.7, I believe. That's someone like Jake Locker. I think he had the same completion percentage being drafted in the first round. There's a reason why he's more enticing to a lot of teams because they think the best is yet to come with a prospect like that. Now we have to ask ourselves, is the best yet to come for a player like Hendon Hooker? And that's something that scouts are trying to figure out.
And lastly, veteran, saw his workout, rainbow hair, tatted up, running routes, catching one-handed passes. What's the mark going to be for OBJ? And how much?
It seems pretty quiet right now. And judging from his social media activity, it seems like he's out there really trying to recruit himself, trying to garner and ramp up interest in himself, which leads me to believe that his phone's not exactly ringing off the hook. I think that he approached free agency looking for something around $10 million, maybe even north of that, if we're being honest with ourselves. That exactly hasn't presented itself. So I think that it's going to be still around that $10 million number. He's going to have interest, but this is a negotiation thing because no one is exactly dying for his services, it would appear. I'm looking at teams like the New York Jets. I'm looking at teams like the New England Patriots. Maybe even the Kansas City Chiefs have something rolled up their sleeve. Odell Beckham Jr. is going to sign with a team this offseason, but where and for how much remains to be seen.
There you have it, Jordan DeJani, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
JD, fantastic stuff, man. Looking forward to next week. We'll get closer and closer to the draft. We'll be talking about that. And who knows, maybe the Titans will have brought in another receiver by next week. Maybe. Whatever happens, we'll talk about it with you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you,
The one and only Jordan DeJani. Every Wednesday, always fun to talk to him. And you can read about all his stuff, cbssports.com. All right, when we come back, Jason and Coach T have been on hold a long time. They got stuff they want to get off their chest on the phone. We'll go to them. If you want to squeeze in and call 615-737-1045. Also, how did Jackson Smith-Njigba, how did he run today at his pro day? We'll tell you that, too. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. So Jackson Smith and Jigba read him a 4.49 today, according to 11 Warriors, which is
well, they put out on social media 4.53. That did not look so good.
Hey, of course, that's the website that covers Ohio State exclusively. So they had him down to a 4.49 in his second 40.
Oh, okay.
Meanwhile,
so he's a 4.50 guy.
He is exactly.
And he's not a speedster.
Nope.
He's more of a quick, great route runner.
Yeah.
He's ready for the NFL as far as that's concerned. I don't want him to play with the Titans. I just don't think it. I just
they're
don't
not
think
going to take a receiver 11. Blake,
they
you're
said
fine.
Jeremiah just said they're going to take him with the 11 pick.
I know,
He's
but
one of the number one rated receivers. Him and the kid from TCU, who are totally different players.
Right.
By the way, as far as
you're
their
fine.
skill
They're
set.
not going to do that.
But I mean, he is a proven. He will be moving the chains. There is no doubt about it.
Let's move these phone lines because Jason and Coach T, they've been holding. Coach T wants to talk.
He's not versatile.
Coach T is. He wants to talk about March Madness, and then Jason wants to talk about the
Coach
Vols.
T.
Coach T, what's up, man?
March Madness.
Man, I'm like, do the right thing. I call to break it down, fellas.
Break
you know
it
how that
down.
goes.
Break it down for us.
Hey, listen, I'm going to give you a lottery number, too, 4379, because that's the numbers that's moving into the same bracket with Tennessee. And unfortunately, Brian, I love you, but you done came south and got too much sun on you, man. Michigan State is moving on out that bracket, so the road and the Bucks going to stop the Vols. I love the Vols, but a caller said earlier about how they like to keep the score low and play physical. That's Big Ten ball. That's Tom Izzo type ball.
Hey,
So-
Coach T, can you believe no Big Ten team has won the championship since Michigan State did in 2000?
2000, yeah, and I was there in Indianapolis. I was at that when Martine Cleaves was at that particular one MVP.
That's right.
And when Izzo was not even picked Mick to get this low, and he always has his team tournament ready.
Yeah,
He always has them tournament ready. Now Alabama, I think because of what happened over there, unfortunately, they're going to probably have the easiest route into that Final Four. SDSU was going to give them a little problem, but I think Bama moves on with Miller and the guys, and Quigley, they're just too much firepower right there. And Texas, I love them. No one's talking about Texas. They will win the state of Texas. They're going to knock off Houston. Texas will move on out that bracket, and UCLA will send the Zags home and show them, what it's going to be. So in my Final Four, you'll be well represented by the Power Five except the ACC. SEC will have Alabama. The Big Ten will have Michigan State. The Big 12 will have Texas. And the Pac-12 will have UCLA with Texas. And Michigan State knocking off Bama, going to the national championship with Texas winning it all.
Whoa.
Man, he just broke it all down like
See,
that.
Coach T, appreciate it. Oh, let's see if that happens.
I hope everybody was listening. It made everybody some money right there. Let's finish up with Jason in the Borough, who wants to talk a little Vols. Jason, what do you think about that call from Coach T?
I don't believe it.
So, especially the Vols part, right?
SEC's where it's at, man. SEC's where it's at. That's why the Texas and Oklahoma are leaving and coming over there.
Gotcha. Have a good call.
Also, I want to say the Florida Atlantic, man, they've played, and the 3 games they lost to UAB, they lost to
Ole Miss,
and I can't remember
MTSU. Yeah, MTSU.
Right.
Now I know. You can lose anybody. It's much easier to lose in basketball than it is in football. Like have a streak. They have 9 wins in a row. That loss is coming. I'm telling you right now. Florida Atlantic about to lose, and Tennessee's peaking at the right time, man. They didn't have it together because they had figure out the whole Ziegler thing, and they got this in the bag. I really believe that.
Well, thank you for the call, Jason. I would come out and I would be, and you're right. Florida Atlantic's coach. Hey, man, we're going to get a manual, learn how to play rugby against these guys. He's talking to the officials, 100%.
Yeah. He's setting the tone right there because he knows that's the only way that they're going to lose is if they let them play physical. If they don't, we got a shot. Shot.
I'm fascinated by how in the world they're going to call that game. Because you had old Jay Billis who was griping, and you got and their coach, like you said, that didn't come across as griping or unhanded to me. he was planning it out there. So whomever gets picked to officiate that game are going to be thinking like, we can't let it look like this. We can't let it get out of hand. Their coach, we're talking about rugby. We're supposed to make this a basketball game.
Get in the head, implant it in the brain.
Yep. But you're still going to send Urosh out there with 2 pointed elbows, aren't you? Hey, go, big fella. You got 5
haymakers.
Fouls. Go waste them. Like, get them all. Yep. Actually, don't waste them. Make them all count.
Yeah. Do the bumpty bump.
Josh says UT just needs to dominate the boards.
Well, with their great defense, I'm interested to see how FAU does shooting the 3.
Yep.
I don't know, man. That may not work against Tennessee, man, with the way they play D. They better get hot early and often.
I just wonder. It's like if you see, go to one of those budget football games where a smaller school is playing a Power 5 school for their budget, where they go and get their $1.6 million. And sometimes they'll hang with them for a while. But then eventually the Power 5 team, even the guys playing special teams were more highly recruited than just about all the guys on the Group of 5 team. And eventually that strength and that weight and that speed just wears you down. It just breaks you down. Even if it doesn't for a little while, eventually it does. And Tennessee ought to be able to lean on those rascals, especially being a smaller team. And I know they got the 1 7-foot guy, but man, I would be like, hey boys,
I'm looking for a big win.
Yeah,
and I'm talking about double digits.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Tennessee,
but it's going to have to be 68-58.
No, yeah, gonna be low.
All right, well, we're gonna never be low. We'll keep it up high, and we'll hand it off to 3HL because they got to get you the rest of the way home today.
But in the meantime,
in between time,
peace.